Okay. We're here today with Matias Carvajal. Matias is the director of Aftershock, which is another film that's part of the program. I want to introduce myself. I'm Anto Astudillo. I curated the program that you guys will be watching today. And so Matias is one of the Chilean experimental filmmakers that are here today. And we're going to do the interview in English, right, Matias? You're good with that?
That's it.
Okay, awesome.
I will try it.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so Aftershock, can you tell us a little bit about how you conceived this film and what was the context of the film?
Well, this material was shot in almost 3 years ago, after the big revolution in last October. So this material is the beginning of the first manifestations of the students, because they start to paralyze the city. And in the last year, all the citizens joined to this protest. But in the beginning, all the school students start to protesting and paralyze the city. So I was shooting this protest, this little protest, as a first manifestation of this struggle in the city.
That's pretty awesome, because the way that the program is structured, I was trying to have it be chronological. So we start with Franci Duran's film, Cuentos de mi Niñez, and which is a story about Franci being an exile from the 1973 coup d'etat and the dictatorship in Chile. And so when I saw your film, it did have that feeling of being one of the first manifestations that were taking place, and that in a way pushed for a bigger social uprising. Something that's really nice to see is all the students, and something that we experienced when we were in college, you and I, Matias, is the fact that we also saw that happen. Like we lived it, and we were part of the Penguin Revolution that we call, which is a student revolution for education, for public education in Chile. And so seeing the students' protest again brings back this the fact that many of the revolutions in Chile have started with very, very young people. And so it's something very motivating. So when did you, the footage was shot 3 years ago. You were looking for visual testimony, documentation of basically the start of the uprising before the uprising started, like all these antecedents of things that were happening before the actual uprising took place in October 2019. Can you tell us a little bit about how you ended up deciding to go with basically a time lapse of things? What made you shoot it that way? What made you edit it that way? That would be nice to know.
Yes, well, in this short film, I tried to use a tilt shift method technique, but it's not a proper tilt shift method because I can use a original lens. It always was produced in the post-production process, but it's a combination into time-lapse and tilt shift to show this. My interest is to show the movement, these bodies in the city. Bueno, mi idea fue construir una mirada panorámica de la manifestación en sí misma, como un gran cuerpo, como una masa que en el fondo interviene en las calles y se empieza a contraponer contra la otra fuerza que tiene que ver con el círculo normal de una ciudad, como una primera gestación, como una primera interrupción, un primer anuncio que nunca termina, porque si nos vemos la historia de la manifestación aquí en Chile, esta manifestación nunca se ha terminado, sino que siempre ha sido permanente. Partió con estos pingüinos y de ahí atómicamente empezó continuamente a ser parte de nuestra vida y empezamos a incorporar esta paralización, hasta que ya llegó todo a un punto en que ya se sumaron todos los grupos sociales, no solamente estudiantes, sino que se empezó a sumar otras generaciones, se empezaron a incorporar los padres de esos niños, y así se llegó a una manifestación que es mucho más transversal, es mucho más masiva, y que en el fondo apela por la dignidad. Pero mi foco siempre estuvo puesto en este short film, estuvo puesto en mirar esta masa, en el fondo, este transcurso, este movimiento sobre la ciudad, sin
That's
hacer
super
ningún
interesting.
tipo de crítica en términos de discurso, sino hacerlo más desde la materialidad de esta masa.
That's super interesting. Let me try to translate that. So basically, Matias was saying that how visually interesting is to see movement and to see the people as movement and a mass of movement in the city. And so the reason why they shot it this way, and you can see it in the film, like it's the way you start watching this film is like you start to try to figure out what you're watching because of the still shift effect. So you start watching it and you start seeing, okay, this looks like like an animation almost. But then you start realizing that these are people, that this is happening in a city. And so, but all of these questions of dimension, scale, come up because of the way it's shot. But something that I really like about the film is the movement, actually, because you start watching and then you forget about a little bit about the individuality of each subject or each object in the picture, in the frame, and you start following everything as something in motion, which translates very well what's happening in the streets. And when you're telling us about what is happening in the streets since the Penguin Revolution, since the Education Revolution, all these manifestations that in a way have become part of our life as citizens of Chile, of Santiago, and how these manifestations constantly burst and happen as happenings, as things that are part of our life in the city, or the way that the city moves. There is this this notion of material, of something that's physical, that's materiality, and seeing the protest not just through the lens of something that is a concept or is political or is a mission or a goal, but to see it for what it is, which is the bodies in the space taking over the space, and how important is the presence of the students, whether they are high school students or college students, how important the students have been for this kind of manifestation. And I just think it's amazing to see your film in the beginning part of the program, after you have all these other films about the coup d'etat and the dictatorship from the 70s and 80s, and then come into your film as a way to reveal the movement. And so later we see, I think in a way your film also is similar to Malena Schlam's film Altiplano, which is another kind of movement, a more underground movement, the movement of the earth, and how I feel that Chile is such an active place, but it also takes on how volcanic it is, and all this, like the earthquakes in Chile. I feel the same way about the people in Chile. I feel like the people in Chile in itself, they carry that activity, that tectonic activity. So that's why, you know, that's why those two films are pretty close from each other.
Yeah, actually, in my film, I use the sound is used in all the film is tectonic plaques captured by machines. So I was trying to do a comparison between this movement, this mass of students on the streets with the tectonic plaques. For that reason, the sound is so deep, is so, you know, it's
That's amazing.
more a material thing. And in the end, I put a shoot to the stars. So because in my opinion, this struggle is an unending struggle, you know. And always the next generation trying to put forward the limits created before. So probably this struggle is in anywhere will be the same.
This is all pretty great because we're also discovering things about your film that are connected to other films. And these are the things that happen when you put a program together, you watch the films, and things from one film start resonating. And so then it makes sense to put them in that order. Sometimes people ask me, why do you put things in this order, or why this order? And that's one of the explanations, is sometimes you don't even know exactly what it is, but you can recognize where the images and the sounds come from and how they connect. So that's super interesting. Matias, when did you finish this film?
I finished this film the last year, 2019. I was motivated by the October Revolution to use this material to create kind of reference to this big protesting. So yeah.
When you did, where did you show it, or how did you share it with people? You can say it in Spanish and translate it.
Lo mostré en ciertas muestras de universidades, en espacios donde se recibía material relativo como a la contienda social.
Matias, I didn't ask you your pronouns. What are your pronouns? Tu pronombres?
I prefer neutral.
Okay, they, them. Okay. So they are saying how they were showing the piece in different universities on spaces that were doing calls for work for the social uprising. And I'm sure that is something that was kind of hard, because I feel like there were so many pieces, so many people working on films, and to be able to show your own stuff. How was that experience? Did you notice that there were a lot of people working on things? Were you able to share ideas with other people?
Yeah, in my opinion, in this moment, it's so important the collaborations and share different point of view about these situations, because I mean the authority of filmmakers in this generation especially is not just my opinion. I need to incorporate other views, other voices, and if I can to push forward my beliefs, it's only possible if I share with others. So this kind of activities, as you are creating this screening to share our reflections about our experience, because that's it. It's not just a production. It's not a tell something. It's more deep than that. I mean, this is my reflection, personal reflection about this situation in my experience, but it's not the only, it's not the reasons. I'm not trying to solve or give a solution or I don't know if you can understand my.
Yeah, totally. Something that I realized, especially I would say during the pandemic, maybe I was already doing it before with the social uprising, is to be able to connect with others, collaborate in order to expand, because I realized that so many struggles were similar. Um, Different social struggles, different groups share similar struggles, and in a way we are getting more and more connected through social media. But at the same time, if we don't, this is my opinion, that if we don't participate from things, or if we don't collaborate, that connection is superficial. It doesn't really go anywhere, and it just becomes an image that is lost in time, that is shared but then lost in time. And so for me, it was super important to reach out to people, and I'm super happy also that you reached out to me and that you showed me your piece, and that we were able to connect, and that I was able to put all these things together and put them in a program that has been touring in so many different places and with different audiences too. I think this is important, because sometimes people put programs together and they show it one time for one audience, but it's so important that different generations, different audiences, different groups of people from different cultures can see this, because I feel that there are so many similarities to what happens in so many different places. And collaboration is a way to expand. This is what I mean. So that's something that I was already doing with the social uprising, especially being away from Chile and thinking, oh my God, this is happening in my country and I'm not there right now. But I was only really aware of it and wanting this collaboration during the pandemic, because we were so, we were forced to stay in one place, and somehow the connection was even more urgent. So I totally agree with you that collaborating as a way to share your thoughts, share your ideologies, compare them with others, change your ideologies, change the way you think, and grow from there, I think is the only way we can actually find that dignity that we're looking for.
Yeah, I agree with you, because
go ahead.
Actually the material we are shooting other people,
right,
which they are raising their voices for dignity, basically. But material for this short film is the people. It's not me. So I need to be honest with them and trying to, to validate their voices. That's another kind of collaboration. Maybe it's not a direct way to do it, to do that, but in my process as filmmaker, that was my idea.
And that's something that's so beautiful, because I feel like often as filmmakers we ask ourselves, what is our role in society? Like what is our role? It's like, are we just making work to be artists, to become something, to show off, you know what I mean, to our skills and stuff? But then when you do this kind of work, you realize you have a role, and it's the role that many documentary filmmakers, the big names that we hear from Chile, have and had at the time when they were making work about dictatorship times or about those times. And it's the role of the filmmaker that's willing to go out in the street and show the struggles of others, but those struggles in a way represent so much of what we want as well, or what we want to say. So it's a beautiful collaboration, as you say. It's like you have this role of taking the images and sharing the images, editing these images and presenting these images in a way. And the people who go out, and I usually also try to connect with organizations before I go out. I try to connect with the organizations and tell them, hey, I want to shoot this protest. Is it okay if I go with my camera? Because, you know, you also want to you want to have a role that's an actual collaboration with the people, and that people are happy that you're there because you're showing something that they're doing, but it's for everyone. So that's the beauty of it. Matias, do you want to say closing words or something else that you have in mind about your piece?
No, I'm very glad to be a part of this screening, and I'm glad for your gestión. I don't know how to say that.
Yeah, gestión work.
For your work, and yeah, I'm really interested in how other societies resonate with these short films, because, as you say before, this protest, this struggle is the same around the world, with different matices or different characteristics, but in the deep way, it's the same revolution. All of us are in the same struggle, related with the earth, with ecosystems, with inequality, with many struggles that we need to face and deal with it to have a better life, to be a better society. So I'm very interested to know how the people or different audience or different generations can reflect and can have an opinion about how it's happening in this world right now.
Yeah.
Like with the Chile in this case, but it's not Chile, it's in everywhere. Actually, the protests, the movement, the protesting, the mass is the same in anywhere. The street is the place where we can to put our demands.
Yeah,
the street
that's
is the
totally
place where is the battle, is the field where we can, I don't know, collaborate with others, with other individuals, other people, to demand our governments, our authorities, our leaderships to create more dignity.
Yeah, I love that, because I mean, it's something that I've figured out already with my years of going to protests and stuff, that if you don't go out, nothing happens. Or like, not that nothing happens, but the system is so strong and it's so powerful that it would just crash you if you don't demand the right to live in a society that respects you and respects your neighbor, and that, you know, is giving you this life with dignity that we so much talk about, and that in Chile was such a big you know, part of the movement. And yeah, and the similarities of the struggle and the going out to the streets, and how important that is to make everyone part of the same thing and be on the same page, because the most important at the end of the day is to get those voices, to voice those issues, but also to get as many voices as you can together in order to just have a bigger bigger and louder demand. So thank you so much, Matias, and thank you so much for sharing your work and letting us know how you created this work. And I invite everyone to watch the screening, support the work of all these filmmakers, and also to, you know, watch it in order to connect the dots too with what is going on here in the US. And if you're watching some in another country, what is going on in your own country with social demands. And I think we're all connected. As Matias said, this is all part of the same revolution. So I'm really glad that to have you here today, and I hope people can watch the screening. So that's it. Take care, Matias.